Hi, I am Ed Love, and I am a professor of marketing. I've been at Western for about 15 years. I'm the chair of the Department of Finance and Marketing. I teach strategy, I teach analytics, I teach innovation.
Hi, I'm Dan Purdy. I'm a senior instructor of marketing here at Western Washington University. I teach marketing principles, marketing research, and integrated marketing communications, which I've been doing for about the last 15 years or so, and hope to be able to do for another 15 years or so. Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Mark Staton. I'm the digital marketing professor at WW in the fall quarter of 2022.
The prompt is potential employers ask you for student referrals.
Strongly agree. Happens all the time.
Oh, sweet. Awesome. How would you describe the type of student you would refer to employers?
A professional, someone who definitely has taken the course seriously, works hard every day, works hard every class. Um, you know, Obviously, if someone is asking for a referral of one of our students, if that experience doesn't go well, that means they're less likely to ask in the future. So I think it's really important that I don't just give any student a referral. It has to be someone who's going to reflect well on the program currently and moving forward.
How often would you say potential employers ask about your students?
I get several requests a quarter.
I said agree because I would like more. I do get them, but not, I think, as many as Ed. And I would like to have more alums coming to me and asking, because I think that's something we really need to get out there.
Well, I just want to make sure that if there's an opportunity for a position that comes up, that every student who might be interested in that position has access to at least know about it. And so what I'll try to do is if an alum reaches out to me about a position, I'll ask them to post it out, and then if I know some current students or soon to be graduating students who would be especially good, then I can forward that to them, right? And that's true with actually earlier career alums as well. So I get a lot of alums reaching out to me about positions in their organizations that aren't right for students, but are right for earlier career alums. And so I'll share those out as well.
How would you describe the type of student you would refer to employers?
Type of student I refer to employers is someone who is got a good sense of conscientiousness. They have good attention to detail, great follow through. They are going to represent us as an organization. And I think maybe a secret that students don't always understand, me personally, because my recommendations reflect on me, that they're gonna represent us well. Now, of course, I want people who are thoughtful and we might describe it as intelligent, but intelligence has lots of different variations that takes. Talented, but I think most people would take somebody who's willing over talent. So I tend to really gravitate towards and pick out people who are growth oriented. They may not be where they're ultimately going to be, but they want to get there, and you can see that in them. Um, and that is a difficult number of people to quantify because it's always changing. But those are the kind of people that I like to refer. We do a lot of, like, somebody wants a letter of recommendation for something specific, but what I want more of is I want alums coming to me and saying, hey, I need to hire somebody, and I thought of you guys first. Right? I don't even, I got a job description. I don't even want to have to go through the whole Indeed posting a job thing, LinkedIn, whatever. I want to, hey, Ed, Dan, Mark, like, who you got that would be awesome for this role? That's what I really would like, right? And I think when we get to that point, then we're we're really, able to do a lot of very cool stuff. Work something like that into your answer.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of dimensions that I'll consider. The students that are easiest for me to recommend are the students who have a lot of collegiality, who have a lot of enthusiasm for the work, and also work very well with other students, communicate well with me, make sure that I know who they are as a person, and what their interests are. I think that there are also things that I look for in terms of specific silos of interest. So if someone's got a particular passion for analytics or a particular passion for digital or creative or whatever, that I see a good match there that makes sense with that position. So for me, it's always about fit. And as sort of a baseline, I have to know that there's some integrity there, that there's someone that I can feel good about recommending and knowing that they're going to be a good representative of the program. Because when that recommendation comes through, it's true, we're putting the Western brand on that. And I have to, the Western marketing program brand is something that we really want to protect and amplify. And so when we do this right, it's lovely because our students are the brand and they go out into the world and they represent that.
Well, and I just want to touch on something that Ed said about making sure that students all get access. So something I regularly do, if an alum says, hey, do you have somebody fill in the internship, job, whatever, my first step is usually to say, do you got a job description? And then as Ed says, we might funnel that to one person that we think is a good fit, but at the same time, we want to make sure that gets into the job postings. If it's an internship, that it gets to Kat so she can distribute it, right? Because we want everybody to get access to it. But also sometimes an alum will ask us, is there somebody that's a special fit? And then if we know, then we can. But I think this relates back to the office hours question, right? Like, if we don't know people, how do you refer people?
So the next prompt is, former students have referred that the lessons learned in class have been applied in their professional careers. What projects, assignments, certifications, etc. have former students said were helpful?
I'll start. For the digital class, it's 2/3 of the grade is blogs that they write on LinkedIn, and then industry certifications like Google Analytics and Google Ads and stuff like that. And I get a lot of feedback that both of those things help them in the job process in terms of sort of separating them from other candidates, as well as sort of helps them figure out, what to do once they get those jobs, because they end up doing a lot of content writing. They end up having to do these things. So yeah, both of those things have a really big impact.
I think that, like, from a very specific short-term standpoint, the topics that we cover, especially early on in the analytics class, I hear again and again, are really key. Knowing how to use pivot tables, knowing how to do VLOOKUPs, all of those kinds of functions that are just fundamental to turning data into information quickly are a huge boost. Students get jobs because they have those skills, and they're successful right away because they can do them.
I think again, touching on the early wins for students when they get in the professional world, it's the agile concepts that we talk about. Students will go out and I'll get LinkedIn messages or emails saying, hey, like, literally, this was my first 90 days. We did this and this and this and this. The other things I hear a lot about are some of the things like the creative brief, where they go into an organization and they don't have one. And the students can bring in a template, and not students anymore, but alums, they can bring in a template, open it up, and all of a sudden they can advance their company just tremendously, because they just don't have any structure. They have lots of tactics, but no sort of strategic organization around it. So students will report back to me after they graduate, and that's such a help to me personally. So it's really wonderful when I get that kind of feedback.
Practices, projects, assignments, certifications, etc.
If they couldn't take my class, well, I would say that A lot of what I teach, I did not learn in college. That I learned as a working marketing professional and as a lifelong learner. So I joke all the time, YouTube is my friend. I figure out what we need to do and I go teach myself how to do it so I can teach students how to do it. Like, there was no Spotify when I was in college. Sorry. So how am I able to help you guys do a Spotify project? By literally, right? And I see my job as teaching students how to learn, not as teaching something like Spotify or even specific Agile. Like, who knows where that's going to be? When I started college, Agile didn't exist. So what's it going to be in 20 years, right? So you gotta learn how to learn so that you can continue to grow as the world changes. That's the most important skill. So everything that I teach, a student could learn. I think the challenge is not that you can or you can't. It's figuring out what to learn. I think a lot of what I try to do, I'm an agenda setter. I'm like, here's what we need to figure out. And I'm increasingly getting to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna try to set the agenda, and then the assignment is for you to figure it out, because that's the skill that's enduring. Like the individual short-term skill, that's not inconsequential, but it's not the big huge payoff. The big huge payoff is you can learn it 5 times, 10 times, as many times as you need to, because you know how to learn. And that, I think, is something that will you'll reap benefits throughout your career.
Yeah, I think it's true that a lot of, particularly if you think about like some of the block and tackle stuff that we do in analytics, is stuff that you might be able to learn on your own. I think that the real challenge is understanding what to learn and what is truly valuable and what is not valuable. You don't know what you don't know. And so the classes are extremely valuable in helping you to identify the key opportunities for learning, and I hope facilitate the learning process. It can, particularly like, some of the basic Excel stuff, you can certainly talk to a professor, get the textbook, and work on some of this stuff yourself. No question about it. And I think that the points that Dan makes in particular about, learning how to learn and also building in a growth mindset so that you understand that you can learn, you can change, and just because there's something that you don't know today doesn't mean that you won't know it tomorrow. That's absolutely true. I think many of the certifications that we offer in many of our classes, those are things that are probably easier to pick up on your own, because you'll find that there are helpful tutorials or things that are guided along whatever certification process. For things like learning strategy, I think it's a lot more difficult to pick up that sort of thing on your own, unless you're going to do it through the School of Hard Knocks, and just, hopefully you're going to benefit in the classes from the years of experience that your faculty have. But the other way to learn it, of course, is to do it yourself and go through that yourself.
How did you come across your experience in Excel? Was that informal, or did that
I have to admit to this, huh? I graduated from college in 1990. So no, I did not learn Excel in college. I had to teach myself. I know. I had to teach myself pretty much all of that sort of thing myself. And so, it was reading books, playing with it, figuring it out, just believing in my ability to learn it, and then refining it in the professional world. So taking the things that I'd learned myself, going into professional environments where there were business problems I had to solve, and figuring out how to solve them. And that, for me, was a big source of learning. Now, whenever I approach a class, I will try and build a structure around that class, so that as I'm teaching these things, I'm seeding in the knowledge that I've gotten from whatever personal experience I've got within a broader narrative that is pedagogical intent, that is going through, like, what students need to know to meet learning objectives from the textbook and that sort of thing. But that's where a lot of it comes from. It's when I get into strategy again, because I have a lot of professional experience, including experience running my own company. A lot of the frameworks that I come in with are a blend of what I've learned in my own studies in my PhD program and my MBA, with what I've done professionally, and then whatever I can find as the best practices from texts and articles and things like that.
Almost all the technical stuff you can learn, like pivot tables, like all that stuff you can learn, right? You can find resources for that. I'm not saying it's easy, and it helps that we're here to explain it. Here's what I think you really can't learn. It's really hard to get perspective, and it's really hard to be exposed to different ways of thinking. When you come through this university, you get to see Ed's brain work. You get to see Kat's brain work. You get to see Mark's brain work. You get to see Dan's brain. You get to see different minds at work. And diversity is so critical, right? Is that we have to compare and contrast. And so when you see different ways of thinking about things, and then you experience the idea of, you literally see somebody look at it from one direction, and then they tear it apart from that, maybe a case study, right? They sort of expose it. Then they flip around and do it from the other. And maybe they use a different framework to do each one. And you start to see them do that, and you all of a sudden, you get exposed to a way of thinking, and you start to absorb some of that. I think that's something that is very, very, very hard to replicate outside of a university-like experience. Now, that can happen in a professional setting, in a company, working with some people who do that. But I think that at this time in your lives, being able to see different people do this, I think is really, really hard to get on the job, especially when that's a remote job experience and your office is your apartment. And I think that's one of the enduring benefits of a liberal arts university degree that is hard to replicate anywhere else, because you just don't get exposed to that many unique minds and that many unique frameworks and ideas in a short period of time. I don't know that everybody realizes that's what's happening in the moment, but that's a lot of what's happening. And the more that you can recognize that, the more that you can pull and extract those things in terms of value. Because I think we do get tunnel vision focused on the methods and the techniques. Those are necessary, but they're just not sufficient, I think. And I think the real value is in being able to see all that happening in front of you in real time, and then what can you learn from that?